Welcome to another edition of Martin Mayhem's Retro Rundown. Today I thought I'd introduce a new kind of series that I'm going to be running on Super Famicom and Super Nintendo games. Mainly probably starting off with focusing on some Super Famicom stuff. You've probably seen it all before, but nevertheless I'll just show you my Super Nintendo and Super Famicom. Look at the similarities, look at the differences, and talk about how I actually use them. So here we have, let's move the Famicom out of the way first. Start off with the Super Nintendo. As you can see, it's very familiar. It looks very similar to the Super Famicom. And just go around to the back. As you can see here, it's got a multi-out, RF out, and AC adapter. And on the back there, on the bottom, uses a 9-volt, 1.3 amps power rating. I can't remember whether it's center positive or center negative. But anyway, one of the good things about it is this here. And if you're familiar with the rest of the Nintendo consoles that came after this, it uses the same multi-out for video output. So you can literally use the same leads from the GameCube, from the Nintendo Wii, from the N64, possibly even from the maybe not the Wii U because that's put HDMI, but anyway, use the same stuff. So if you just pick up a Super Nintendo with nothing else, if it's working, that's great. You can buy controllers off of a well-known auction site fairly cheaply. They do remakes of them from Hong Kong. It's probably better to get original controllers. They probably work better, but you can buy new remodeled controllers, or you can, I think there's websites that you can look up that you can get components for controllers and so on, and all you need is a AC adapter, lead from maybe one of your other Nintendos, or you can get the leads quite cheaply as well for it, and you'll be up and running. So that's that. This is the PAL version. It says PAL there, that's where the cartridge goes in. Power, reset, eject. And just move that out of the way, and then we've got the Nintendo Super Famicom. Power, eject, reset, power, light, controllers go in the front, and it's got multi-out, RF out, channel select, and that's the power input. And I use exactly the same power adapter and same lead for the Super Nintendo. So that's how I run my Super Famicom. And interestingly, this says use cassette with Super Famicom mark only. I guess over here in the West we call them cartridges. You notice that everything on here is in English. On the back, slightly different story, as this is obviously Super Famicom Japanese model, made in Japan. There we go. It's got the extension thing on the back, same as the PAL model. I'll just put them side by side again so you can compare them. Pretty much exactly the same looking, apart from the logos there. And probably my stickers have come off, but anyway, these are items that I bought on an auction site, and this one was, at the time I bought it, fairly cheap. The prices on the Super Nintendo have gone up considerably in the last few years. The Famicom I bought more recently, and it was cheaper than a Super Nintendo. I don't know why, but maybe because of the amount there are on the market. But even shipping this from Japan was still cheaper than buying a Super Nintendo of roughly the same time. So that was that decision. Anyway, I'll show you the controllers, similarities and differences as well in a minute. So here we have the controllers as well. It's like playing Spot the Difference. Basically, there's not much in it. The cable on the Super Nintendo controller is a lot longer than the cable on the Super Famicom. The connectors are exactly the same, and surprisingly, I didn't realise this, but you can use the Super Nintendo controller on the Super Famicom, and vice versa. Super Famicom works on the Super Nintendo. And when I got my Super Famicom, I got a couple of controllers with it. They're quite easy to take apart and put back together and clean up inside. Maybe in the future I'll do a video on how to take it apart and refurbish it. But it's very easy. In fact, there's probably loads of videos online that you can find to show you how to do that, and they'll probably explain it a lot better than I would. So look them up. But that's it, yeah. So if you're thinking of getting into collecting for the Super Nintendo or the Super Famicom, it's pretty straightforward. And my advice is do some research first. Definitely have a good think about getting stuff for the Super Famicom, because generally, not always, but generally, a lot of the games can be found more cheaply. And it's not a warning, but the price on the Super Nintendo games is fairly high at the moment. It continues to go up, so just be aware of that. Anyway, thanks for watching, and then next video will be some gameplay video. Until next time, keep on gaming.